It's fine. Most people have me on mute anyway.
Okay, what's next?
My brain was filtering out anything not about waffles.
Yeah, give me a second.
I'm gonna hop onto Scrappy, and I'm gonna see if there's anybody who's like bleeding out that I can prevent from dying with cure wounds.
There's enough devastation on that you could probably burn up as many spell charges as you would like to spend.
Yeah, I'll just burn them all then and just do medicine checks for the rest.
And as you start in on this work, after a few moments, where are you at? You're in the clerk's ward. Other people show up to the scene to begin helping. Some sort of elemental mages show up to start trying to clean up the water, and there are people tending to the wounded. Sometimes you see groups of people all wearing very similar clothing, which in Dunfoss would usually mean they're all from the same magic college or the same temple or some such. You also see people trying to take advantage of the devastation. People trying to run off with loose coins or food. No small amount of population is just gathering up water in oilskin sacks or in pots or cauldrons or whatnot. But the chaos is subsiding fairly quickly. And if you stand out in the middle of it and look down a couple blocks in either direction, it's not very far away until it's just back to like life is normal. If something like this had happened in the middle of Dunfoss, it would probably have brought business to a screeching halt, at least in that district of the city for the entire day. And by the end of the day, the entire city would be discussing it. In Sigil, this is not happening. People 100 feet away who watch the devastation just going about their day.
Just another day. I want to do immediately after the fight ends, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'd like to go bring. We have some good berries, right?
Yep.
Florian too. I'd like to go bring those over and check on the guy who was selling the beer.
He's kind of pulled himself up onto a half-broken pallet. Most of his barrels are smashed, and the whole area just smells of rum. And he's clutching his chest, and he's breathing very raggedly in gasps and fits. And he sees the giant ape approaching him.
Yeah, I transform back.
Okay.
And I bring over the good berries. I'm like, here, I've got some good berries for you, and I have a business proposition. And I hand them over. But that's not part of the proposition.
Okay.
And I say, I kind of nod back over my shoulder and says, how much do you think people would pay for calamari from a portal from the world of water?
He eyes you with great suspicion. And he looks at the berries in his hands. Who are you?
I'm the one who saved your life with the large floating panes of glass.
He casts the berries aside, and he's trying to get to his feet. Don't remember asking for your help. It's clear that he can't stand. It's clear that his rib cage is... He's probably got broken bones.
Seeker just kind of squints and says, you're going to die if you don't eat those berries.
He tells you he's going to die if he does eat them.
Why?
And would it be... you see a reaction in him when you ask why that you're pretty sure you've never seen in a person before. And you were specifically warned not to do this. But you now find yourself in a philosophical debate with a half-dead man in a flooded ruin in the middle of the city as he is taking you through the entire shape of his worldview, which is that all things slide toward entropy, and that to attempt to stop it in the other direction is futile at best and actively malicious against the nature of existence at worst.
So, if you were to slide further towards entropy, then that would be a good thing.
He tells you that looking at it is a good thing, or what's everybody else doing at this moment?
So I've got
listening to this.
Okay.
I've got 5 thoughts of magical healing and then a +4 medicine check.
Okay.
I'll prioritize people that are unconscious, mostly so I don't have to hear this sort of thing with the magical healing.
Connor could be doing that, but he's fascinated by this conversation.
Are you willing to start taking direction as you do this?
Boom.
As you start casting spells on the area, as you start healing people and tending to wounds and getting people, dragging them away from the worst part of the devastation, making sure that they're alive, bringing them back from the brink of death, you notice there are other spellcasters in the area that have shown up, wearing very, very colorful clothes and headdresses with bright bird plumage coming off the sides. So, kind of like Gus's hat that you gave him, cranked up to 11.
If it looks like the citizens are generally accepting their help, then yes, I will follow their lead.
Okay. So yeah, one of the, a very tall, very skinny woman who speaks only in a whisper. She has this almost translucent, sickly-looking skin about her. But you can see she's very deftly directing people, making sure that their magics go to the places that they can do the most help. And without even asking your permission, or she just starts giving you this direction. And you feel like you just kind of slide into a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, that's no problem.
And you couldn't prove it, but something tells you that that this spirit of cooperation that you've slipped into, you were able to save more people and reverse more damage than if you had just been working alone. Connor and Seeker are talking to the guy about entropy as he's dying. Gus...
Seeker holds up a finger and says, I am willing to sell you 2 fresh pieces of calamari from the plane of water, 6 good berries, your life for 9 platinum pieces. Final offer.
Gus, what are you doing?
Gus has decided to lay in the street and take a nap.
Okay. And as soon as you're kind of hunched down and you're laying down, and as you're down for a moment, you feel a boot against your side. And someone's nudging you with the toe of his boot. Looking up, you see the form of Paesto looming above you, and he reaches down with his right hand. He says, "Octopus are fish."
I think they're cephalopods.
You take his hand,
Yeah.
and he pulls you brusquely up onto your feet. And then he beats his chest with his closed fist. Paesto eat fish.
Cool. You want a tentacle?
And then he starts dragging you back out to where the devastation is. And he shakes his head. He tells you, work to be done. The Gus man can work, yes?
Yes.
And there are people at this point that are starting to move away the debris. You see merchants that have survived the wrath are starting to separate goods from the destruction. And who have I not gotten to yet? Lucius, how are you reacting to the aftermath?
Lucius is dropping down in altitude a bit,
Okay.
and he is on the lookout for the fuzz, because he has a feeling that the fuzz is going to show up at sooner or later, because that's what happens in Dunfoss.
The fuzz?
Yeah.
There is no fuzz anywhere. The only people helping, or hurting, because there are people doing some looting and people making off with what they can, but the only people here helping just seem to be citizens that have come by. There's nothing that even looks like an official city response. Like, is there anybody whose job it is to come out here and restore order? Nonetheless, some semblance of order does seem to be coming about.
Come down to.
Lucius?
I'll come down to Alexander and see and do my best to help him, because I got 10 minutes of flight. I can move things around. I can't move people around, but I can move things around.
And the same woman that's been directing Alex is putting you to work. There are people that are underneath large pieces of debris that your fly spell, with the leverage it allows you, can move more easily. She has you scouting out to find people that haven't been discovered yet, and you get the same feeling, just slipping into this well-oiled machine. It feels like you were able to help more people than if you had just done it on your own. Seeker, I've got good news and bad news.
Yeah.
The bad news is that this man is not interested in changing his mind on any of his life philosophy.
Okay.
The good news is he does die after a minute or so.
Uh-huh.
And he's got the 9 platinum pieces in a coin pouch. Along with
take them.
Another 30 or so platinum and a smattering of copper.
Yeah, I take them.
All
I
of
earn
it?
them talking to that man.
All of it?
And then I go over and I say, I know divination magic. Do you need me to find people?
To answer the question, did you take all of the coins? Or just your 9?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, I took it all.
32 pieces of platinum?
Yeah.
And... hold on, I gotta do calculator real quick. 240 pieces of copper.
Uh-huh. I'll tell anyone who asks why I took that platinum. And then I go up to the woman who's been directing people and I say, I know divination magic. Do you need me to help find people?
So you're also slotting into this machine?
Yeah.
What about Connor?
Connor takes a few more moments, but joins Seeker in helping assisting people with healing.
So yeah.
Just goes, no, that's bullshit.
What about Gus? Are you gonna work?
Gus will work. I mean, sure.
Okay. So you guys spend the next 40 minutes to an hour or so. The water, over the course of the next few minutes, since it's no longer gushing out infinitely, spreads out into the streets, starts accumulating in gutters and basements, and I don't even know where the water runoff in Sigil ends up. I imagine the hive somewhere. The hive's pretty gross. The people have all been found. A lot of injuries have been tended to. There is some number of dead, although not as much as you would expect. You all feel very good about this work. You feel like like I mentioned, like the spirit of cooperation took hold, and you didn't even have to direct your own actions. Like some force behind you, you just knew what the perfect thing to do in each particular time, in each particular moment, with each particular spell slot, or putting your shoulder to each fallen beam. And as long as you don't work against that spirit of cooperation, everything goes real smoothly.
Oh, once Connor starts feeling it, he would get suspicious.
Wait, how
Lucius
suspicious?
would start to get suspicious.
Like-
of that as well.
Maybe trigger some paranoia in him.
The question is, do you stop helping? Or do you start, like, arguing with this woman who's directing people?
Connor would start arguing, because he's not a subtle or diplomatic person.
Okay. What about Lucius?
Lucius will stop, and he won't. Will work until his resources are expended, like his one spell slot, and then just be like, wait a second.
Well, once your spell slot's gone, there's other work to be done. There's debris to clear. There's people to move in and out. There's goods to separate. There's merchants that need to have their wares tended to. Like, there's no shortage of work to be done.
Lucius is gonna stop and ponder.
There are people butchering up the tentacles. So you just stop working after a few moments?
Yeah,
After your
probably
spell slots are
about
gone?
20 minutes or so. Once it dawns on him.
Okay.
That,
Connor, you find this woman is impossible to argue with, because every time you attempt to, maybe I should be doing something different, she just agrees with you. And whatever it is that you feel like you need to do to help, she gives you leave to go and do it. Whatever you think is best.
Nothing
I
more
think
frustrating.
Connor would fall for that the first or second time before he starts deliberately trying to start an argument.
So Connor, by the time you're getting to the point where you're like, wait a minute, I want to argue with this woman so bad, about 40 minutes had passed. And by now, most of the debris has been cleared away, or at least pushed into manageable piles. A lot of it's just been carted off by other people who need the raw materials. Merchants are already hard at work reconstructing their merchant stalls. There are already people worrying about how they're going to reactivate and contain the portal in the future. And after about this 40 minutes or so, there's not a lot of work left to be done. And Connor, you realize you've spent the whole time doing what you were told, even if you had to be tricked into doing it.
Connor gets really, really mad.
By the time you get really, really mad and look around, the woman who is offering direction is no longer there, nor the people that she arrived with.
Oh, vile, fake creature! They're everywhere!
Alex is meanwhile just finishing up a mending on one of the stalls.
Okay. At this point, Paesto thumps his chest with his fists to Gus. Paesto have duties. Must return to the Queen of Fish. Thank you for the rum. And he places his big hand on your shoulder.
Thanks, I had a good time.
The Gus men fought bravely. A battle well bloodied.
Maybe we can do it again next time I'm in Sigil.
And then he begins moving away back towards the hive.
Gus lets out a
Lucius
burp and
is-
sits down.
Lucius is more curious about this compulsion that came over him, and he's trying to. He's basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use Arcana to try and find if there's any magical compulsion that caused this to happen.
Not as you're aware. Because, I'm just going to give you that one for free. If there was any form of, magical compulsion or there was anything taking control of you, you would have been afforded a saving throw. You would have had some way to fight it or to reduce. So, no, don't feel magically compelled. You don't feel like you were doing anything you didn't intend to do. It was just the realization that the things you were doing are the things you were meant to do at that moment.
Yeah, that's kind of what's got Lucius is spooked a little bit to start with.
Lucius, I think it was Faye.
I think it was a literal
May-
spirit of cooperation.
With respect, I'm not going to discount Connor's hypothesis out of hand.
This is how they get you. This is how it starts.
That wasn't so bad.
Oh, they've got him already.
Alex kind of waves his hand around. I mean, this place is in pretty good shape now.
Hey, Alex, do you think if we put a silence amulet on the end of that thing, the centripetal force of that thing freaking out would have gotten the aura of silence around the bell and solved the problem? Should we be talking to their artificers?
Thinking in more than about 4 dimensions at once, Seeker. It seems more like a magical security job than logistics. I don't know, actually, who this would fall under. At any rate, I'm beat. I'm out of regions. I hope we got what we needed. I want to head back to the flop house and just sit down and have a good long smoke. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, I'm much in agreement.
You can't smoke in the flop house. You can only flop in the flop house. It's a flop house, not a smoke
Damn
house.
it.
You can totally smoke in the flop house. It's fine. Okay. There's just no windows and no ventilation. So I guess technically you can hotbox in the flop house.
Excellent.
Look, if I get scrappy and some heat metal spells...
So heading back to the flop house for now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had forgotten because you were all... By default, they put you all in different rooms. Did you guys, any of you, insist on squishing into the same room?
I don't think so.
Doesn't
No.
seem large enough. Except maybe me and Seeker, but I don't think Seeker wants to share a bed with Scrappy.
Yeah, to be clear, we're talking about maybe a 5 foot by 7 foot. It's just long enough to throw a mattress on the floor.
I do remember Alex paid for 2 days in advance because of math.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So each of you are in your flophouse room, and there's just a brief rap on the door,
Pull the door open.
and there's nobody standing there. There's a folded piece of paper just laying outside the door. And given the nature of this place, it won't be laying there for long because somebody else will come along and take it.
Yeah, I'll scoop that up.
It's about maybe the size of a dollar bill. It looks like it's been folded in half and then half again.
Mm-hmm.
And each of the 5 of you get one of these.
Okay.
Look it over.
I'm gonna detect magic on it before I unfold it.
It's very magical.
Okay.
Go ahead and make an Arcana check.
That's an Arcana of 19.
$19. Has an aura of conjuration magic, but the paper itself, when you unfold it, is completely blank. The interesting thing is when you do unfold it, like I say, it's been folded into quarters, half and then half again. When you do unfold it, the creases in the paper completely vanish, so it's just entirely smooth. Blank on both sides.
I'll take out a pen and go to write on it.
What do you write?
Hello. Question mark.
Okay. You write the word hello, question mark. And for some reason, the ink doesn't stick to the paper. It's not that, because you're using what, a quill and a jar of ink or something?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not that the quill isn't working, it's that the ink hits the paper but then slides off as a liquid and just drips onto the floor. Which is already stained with a variety of other things.
Gross.
How long was this before this happened?
What do you mean?
Did we have time to get a short rest before we got the knock on the door? What did we just get in the room?
No, you guys had just flopped down and been in there for a few minutes.
Okay.
Connor will take out his tinderbox, try to light it on fire.
Okay, and the flame licks up around the paper, but the paper does not catch.
I think we got ourselves some magical paper here, boys.
Yeah, I'm gonna cast Identify on it.
Okay. Seeker. This is precisely what I hoped you would do.
You die instantly.
That
Turn into a
would-
piece of paper.
That wouldn't be
No
fair.
save.
No save.
Cast the Identify spell. Focused on the paper. Are you doing this alone in your room, or did you meet up with the others at this point?
I told the others I was gonna do this first. You always
Okay.
tell people before you go somewhere.
Is it possible to get like a booth in the common room where we can all sit around a single table?
Not here in the tenement you're at, but you could go across the street to the gymnasium, or you could find... There's lots of tap houses and things around.
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend let's all get together and do this at the
Yeah,
gymnasium before Seeker
Sounds
does
good to
that
me.
spell.
Okay. Yeah, going to the gymnasium. Nobody bars your entrance in. And once or twice you're approached by one of the gymnasium staff, just making polite inquiries about what your goals are today and whatnot. If you tell them you'd like to be left alone, there's no problem. In fact, part of the gymnasium seems to be not necessarily a library, but a quiet side nook in one of the alcoves that looks like it's designed for meditation, and there are people in there that are reading, and let's be honest, there are people in there napping.
I didn't think you were going to say napping.
Yes.
That counts as exercise. Back out in the yard with you.
Gotcha.
That's for libraries.
See, you guys have a nice little quiet nook where you can speak to each other without overtly being overheard.
Mhm.
Just kind of sitting cross-legged on the floor in a circle.
Let's identify it up.
So you cast the Identify spell. What usually happens when you cast this as a magic item is that you see exactly what the magic item does. Sometimes you get a glimpse into how it was made, whether it requires attunement, whether it has command words. You cast Identify on this piece of paper, the one that you're holding, and after a few seconds, your eyes pop open, and you're pretty sure in the time after you discharged the spell to the time where you opened your eyes, that just a few seconds, you saw all the things. Everything.
Do I still have any kind of comprehension of that? Like slipping away?
I mean, your brain isn't big enough to hold all the things for more than that brief moment. So your comprehension is you cast Identify on this paper, and the response was you were shown everything.
Okay. I have an idea. And I think no matter what, it'll be very funny. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell everyone what happened there.
So you tell everybody that you saw everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
That happens to me sometimes when I drink a lot of rum, and Gus kind of still very drunk. Probably
So
not.
an unbounded affinity, or
It seemed like about everything. Roughly.
Connor looks at Alex and goes, as opposed to a bounded infinity?
right? There are different, like, some infinities are larger than others.
No.
Seeker, I want to be very clear about this. You didn't see infinity. You saw all the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that. Interesting.
All the things.
All right. I'm going to do it again.
Cast Identify again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
And-
this time, or no, rather than cast Identify, I'm gonna try casting Detect Thoughts
Okay.
to see if I can pick up anything from the paper.
And I mean, you can land on the surface thoughts of there are probably 100 to 200 people just in the visible area if you look out of the alcove and out into the yard. But you can't have the spell land on the piece of paper. It's an inanimate object. It's not thinking.
No. Here's what we should do, Seeker.
Okay.
You should identify it again. As it's happening, I should do detect thoughts on you.
I mean, if you'd like to see all the things.
I kind of do, yeah.
Is the
Alright, let's go
aura
for it.
of conjuration still on the paper? Or is that faded?
No, that's still there. On all 5
Well-
of yours.
We'll give that experiment a go. I'm interested.
So you're going to cast Identify on the paper.
Yeah. And he's gonna cast Detect Thoughts on me.
Connor, so his surface thoughts is seeing all the things. And Seeker, you see all the things.
I want to push deeper.
You gotta push deeper.
Yeah.
That offers him a wisdom saving throw, and then I
Which
step
I
out
will
of
take.
the conversation because I'm no longer involved here.
And it's against the spell.
You just the whole rest of his brain is just images of just Seeker just humping Connor's leg in different outfits.
Oh my.
16 is the same, by the way.
I didn't pass. What do you want?
I just want to see, like, if it's still all the things as I go deeper.
So what he's asking Seeker is, what are you thinking about all the things?
I'm thinking all the things about all
All
the
right.
things.
All right, that's as far as Connor is willing to go.
Okay.
Can I have your paper, Alex?
Sure.
Okay. I take his paper and
Okay.
I take my paper and I rub the papers together,
You do that.
like very vigorously.
Sure.
And Connor just goes, "Wow, that really was all the things."
Is this, are these papers, like, neatly cut?
They are. They're about the size of a dollar bill. And if you fold them, because they originally were folded into quarters, but when you unfolded it, it's now completely smooth. And we've tried applying ink to it, and we've tried lighting it on fire.
Can we fold it again?
I guess
Yeah.
my question is, like, are they imprecise enough in the, like, angle of their cutting that I can tell if they were, like, cut from one sheet, or are they all, like, just perfectly 90-degree angles, same
They're-
size?
They're just rectangles. As far as you can tell, the corners are 90-degree angles.
I'll hand Alex his magic paper back and then I'll rip mine in half. Or
Can-
try to.
Okay, and you rip it, and you hear it rip, and you see it rip, but when you take your fingers away, it's not ripped.
Can you fold it again?
Yeah, you can fold it.
I fold mine into a paper airplane and I throw it.
Okay, you throw
Then I
it,
follow it.
and you follow after it, and it hits the ground. I don't know, I mean, Seeker probably can only throw paper. I'm going to say 6-7 feet.
Yeah, Seeker just kind of shrugs and then says, I think we need to talk to a local about this.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to perform one more experiment first. Though.
Sure.
Connor folds his paper up. When we see, because when we identify it, we see all the things.
Mhm.
So maybe what we should be doing is trying to narrow down what we want to see.
How?
Maybe ask it a question.
I can do some divination on it. I tried doing detect thoughts, but that didn't work.
Yeah.
Do you tell us that you tried to write hello on it?
Yeah, I tell you when I went through.
Yours resisted being ripped, or it became unripped after you ripped it?
After I ripped it, it
Okay.
stitched. So what?
I won't bother shooting mine then.
Okay.
Lucius takes goes on his paper, and he starts just writing just the generic. He tries to start writing just the generic markings of the infernal language.
What are you writing in language? Like just like the ABCs?
Infernal
alphabet.
lorem ipsum.
Okay, so you start writing out the
basically,
infernal alphabet.
Yeah, like what you said, lorem ipsum. Yeah.
And as you do, the ink sticks to the paper for a moment, then just slides off of it and drips onto the floor.
Gus, do you want to try cutting one of these with your magical cutlass?
Sure. So I pull the cutlass out and I just kind of start shaving the paper.
Okay, and you cut through the paper, and it cuts. And then after your cutlass is all the way through, you realize it's no longer cut.
Is there like 2 pieces of paper now?
No, it's just not cut.
Okay, hold on. I have an idea. All right, Alex, hold the sword.
Yeah.
All right. So
A crowd is starting to form around your alcove, watching with intent. This is starting to become a spectacle.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the paper and like go down the blade to where it starts to cut, and then immediately pull it apart as it like forcibly pull it apart
Okay.
as it's coming thing. Trying to like have 2 separate pieces of paper.
Sure, and you do that. And it happens, and it comes apart, and you pull the 2 halves aside, and you realize that in one hand you're holding the entire paper, and in the other hand you're holding nothing at all. And the crowd that has formed around you starts to clap.
And Seeker holds up a hand and says, I'm taking bets. If you think you know who sent us this piece of paper, come to me. I'll write it down. We'll start a pot.
And now there's some confusion amongst the crowd, because at first they thought that you were like a magic troupe, like this was performance art, and now some of them are starting to think you're trying to scam them.
Gus gives a drunken bow.
Okay, what's next?
You may have heard of us. We're the people who sent out the Kraken earlier in the clerk's ward.
That was way over in the clerk's ward. These people have no idea what was going on in the clerk's ward. They're interested to hear the tale, though. Well, some of them are. Some of them don't care.
I'll tell them a bit about the tale.
Okay.
And anyways, and then I'll just say, yeah, you people know the city better than anyone else, right? Like, you know the city better than the person standing next to you. Well,
Oh,
you know
I
who
get
sent
it.
us the paper.
They're clueless. Oh, that explains it. And various voices in the crowd as they start to twig start, oh, okay, I get it now. And then the
There it
crowd
is.
starts to begin to disperse.
Lucius rolls his eyes and says, there it is.
So Connor has his folded pieces of paper,
Sure.
and he thinks to himself, he's just kind of coming up with a question to ask the piece of paper.
Okay.
See if anything happens at all. When was the last time someone saw the Lady of Pain? And he
have
opens
no-
up the piece of paper.
Okay. And you open up the
Still-
paper?
Still blank?
Yes.
All right, I'm out of ideas. Let's go ask someone.
Let's go ask.
I mean, I have a idea, but you might not like it.
What's the idea?
Can I see that bag that I gave you?
Sure.
And you don't have things that you want anymore, right?
Not especially, no.
All right. So Alex puts his piece of paper in the bag of holding he created.
Okay.
He pulls out a knife and slices the bag in half.
Okay. The bag slices in half. And what all was in the bag?
Just that piece of paper.
Okay, and it
Just
just
that piece of paper.
flips slowly to the floor.
Interesting.
Normally, if you destroy a bag of holding, anything that's inside it goes to the astral plane. So that's that. I'll make you a new one tomorrow.
Lucius holds up his piece of paper. He's kind of musing through there's got to be something about this thing that I'm just not seeing.
Let's go
Hey.
ask Patience.
It's a piece of paper that cleans itself. I'm gonna use it as toilet paper.
Why wouldn't you just use prestidigitation?
Someone delivered these to us with express purpose for us to find these things. And so
Prestidigitation.
what I'm curious, what I want to know is who that person is, and I'm trying to think what might be the best way to follow these papers back to their sword.
I think
they're
they
not
sent
giving
them to us to mess with us.
You think it's a prank? You think it's some kind of sigil prank that Then Lucius gestures out to the gymnasium that they just play on clueless. Like, is this our hazing?
They all seemed to think it was real funny once they found out we were clueless. I'm betting it's just someone who messes with us.
Yeah.
I'm using it as toilet paper.
Yeah, prestidigitation doesn't leave you feeling quite that clean.
You want to give me magic items? I will find a use for them.
What's next?
Alex is gonna head back to the flop house. Short rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Is anybody
Yeah.
not doing that?
Lucius returns to the flop house, takes a rest, but he does have this thing where he doesn't have to sleep. He can just do like an activity and on any rest, and he's just going to be sitting there staring at this paper the whole time.
Okay. Go ahead and take the benefits of the short rest. And then what?
We want to do the dream tonight, Lucius? Do we have all the information we need?
I'll
try and investigate this paper.
I wish I had more details to work on, but whatever you can give me is I guess
Yeah, and
the
I'll-
best we can hope for.
I'll make you an illusion of the face that I saw, and basically give you all the details that I was able to pull from the guy's mind.
What about the drow? That did he give any indication as to this drow ship?
And I'll just give him what I have. It was a flying ship. It sailed the air rather than the sea. It was for piracy. But I think you should just stick to the woman rather than the ship. He didn't say he had been dreaming about the ship. He said he had been dreaming about the woman.
Haven't we all?
I too, Miss Razu.
How do you know this is
thing
Razu?
The thing I'm concerned about is the details of this dream. Like, if you have details that can make it more believable.
It's a dream. He'll fill in the details himself. I would stick to what you know and try not to put in anything that's going to jar him. We know what she looks like now.
Right. We also have a pretty good idea of what a messenger of Osprey would look like, so you could lead with that.
Yeah, and I'll show her what the the clothing she was wearing that had those Osprey symbols looked like.
A whip and a trident.
Yeah, and I'll tell him about the whip and the trident. Have both. I think that's enough.
So what am I supposed to say to this man?
Tell him that he's been serving long enough, but it's time for him to go to battle and gain himself a glorious afterlife.
To rejoin his old friend.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's do it tonight.
Now, you can make the messenger appear monstrous and terrifying.
Right, like a hobgoblin.
Yeah. Exactly.
A messenger of Osprey.
So what is the dream that you construct? You're just making the hobgoblin appear? But as far as the setting that we're in.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to ask those questions and get the.
I guess you can't go wrong with just on a ship.
Yeah, I can give you what I had for the airship.
Yeah, that's what I want to do is I want to set the scene with that kind of stuff because that's his homeland. That's what he's familiar with.
Right.
Okay.
He knows it better than us, though. That's the thing I'm worried about.
So my next question is this hobgoblin an element of the dream, or are you going to appear in the dream as this hobgoblin? The difference here is that if it's a portion of the dream, because you're allowed to converse with him, but the spell doesn't specify how you have to remain. So as far as I'm concerned, like you could create this hobgoblin and speak to him as like a disembodied voice, or you can become the hobgoblin, or any other number of things. I don't think there's any restrictions on how you can do this with this spell.
So can I rephrase your question for you, Rick Road?
Sure.
McDohl, do you want to impersonate your old character with your current character?
There's no evidence that this is Razu. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Man, wouldn't it be embarrassing if you did a bad job of it, though?
I know, right? But here's the problem. Lucius's only like exposure to what hobgoblins are like as the kind of stuff that you don't that he's a player is like, no, that's not Razu at all. But okay, sure.
Well, I don't know. There's slave drivers. They fight all the time.
Mean,
We know she had a whip and a trident.
yeah, she did have a weapon trident. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Just keep it.
I'm going to pretend to be the hobgoblin that we don't know as Razu.
In fact, I recall Eldov getting into a bunch of trouble with hobgoblins around Dunfoss at one point. There was like an earthquake involved.
That did happen.
Tell him that he should send a message to us, and we can guide him to a portal.
So, Lucius, you wait for that night. Late at night, you cast the dream spell targeting the Ashnars.
Yep.
First thing I'm looking for... So they're not afforded a saving throw unless you use a very specific form of this spell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the I'm going to ruin your sleep.
And I'm going to make sure, give you the opportunity to tell me now that you're not doing that.
I am not doing it.
Excellent. So you create the deck of this flying ship flying through the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And Yashnars is stepping forward. And in the dream, when Yashnars appears, as the scene kind of coalesces around him, he first appears as he did to you. But as he steps, like he's kind of sitting back in his chair, moving with great pain. But when he stands up and takes his feet, it's as though his age falls away from him. Like he was wearing it as a cloak. And what steps out is a much younger, much more aggressive-looking orc. And he's still not wearing battle armor. He's wearing some basic leathers, some boots like you would see, like a sailor would wear. Mm-hmm. And he seems to take pleasure in breathing in the air and looks over the sides of the ship, and you see surprise for a moment as he realizes he's not sailing on the waves. And then that's where you take direction of it. Where does it go from there?
I'm going to say... trying to think here. How best... Like,
If you can't think of the exact words, tone.
What's your goal in the scene?
My goal is to convince him that this hobgoblin represents the messenger of Ostrom that's telling him to seek his glory in battle.
Okay. Make a persuasion check at advantage.
That is a 24.
Yashnar steps before you. And to be clear, at this point, you're taking on the image of this hobgoblin, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And Yashnars steps before you, boldly, with great strides. And he asks you whether you are the friend that he knew, or whether you are Osprey taking her form.
I am what you see.
Sorry if you're hearing chewing noises, but like I said, I ate spicy Doritos, and I have heartburn, so I have to eat a Tums.
Thank God you didn't eat 9.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you would have been dead on the floor, let me tell you.
If I ate the whole bag. He seems to recoil a little bit. He moves backwards about a half a step. And says, "Forgive me, but it is not the nature of my friend, nor of the goddess to speak in riddles." And then he asks, or rather he observes that Osprey forced him off a particular path very early in his life. And now she seeks him out to send him images in his mind, taking the form of his old friends to tell him to walk that path once again. I do not understand the purpose of deviating from that path. If I was meant to die on the battlefield like my forefathers, the brutal savages that they were, and are in many worlds, in many planes, across the great cubes of Acheron. I was plucked from that path and placed somewhere with more purpose, but what was the purpose? The answer to the question is that Nick spent 6 belief points.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Nick. You set me up for success here, there, buddy.
No, he's clearly having a crisis of faith. Make an insight check.
Oh, please. You know what? How many blips do I have? Because I don't trust my dice at this point.
We'll roll first.
I've got you at 6 blips. So.
Yeah, I got that too.
See?
Oh, that's a 15.
Okay. The nature of this conversation, like you've already persuaded him that what he's seeing is a message from Osprey, but he's confounded by it. He's conflicted. This isn't a situation where you have to convince him of something. This is a situation where you are going to inspire him to take a course of action. This is like the entire point of the movie Inception.
You know what? I haven't actually seen Inception myself, but I've seen a review of it, and
That's enough.
Okay, first of all, it's one of the best movies ever made. You have to watch Inception. My goodness.
No, it's really good.
Second of all, the movie is about people going into somebody's dreams and giving them an idea in such a way that they believe it was their idea.
yeah.
That's where you're at with Yashnars right now. Whatever course of action you give him is what he will take. I haven't watched Tenet yet. I should get around to that.
I didn't say we were going to incept him, but I was thinking it.
I'm gonna tell him to seek out the travelers from the world that from the world beyond Sigil. Seek their counsel.
And Yashnars takes a knee in front of you, bends his head down, and says that it will be so, my queen. I walk boldly to the end of my path now. And he begins offering prayers, glorifying Osprey, because he thinks you're Osprey.
And I'm very much.
This is
Hey,
a
you are
little
work-
messed up.
You presented yourself as working for Osprey, which is true. He's a subcontractor.
A subcontractor to a subcontractor?
So Osprey told the High Priest to do something. The High Priest told Seeker to do something. Seeker told Lucius to do something. Lucius told the Hobgoblin Alter Ego to do something. The Hobgoblin Alter Ego told Yashnars to do something. So we're 6 layers deep. This actually is Inception.
We have to
Do somethingception. That's what I'm calling this from now on.
Is that the end of the dream, or do you have more to accomplish here?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next morning,